Hi everyone, my name is Gabby. I am a training manager here at PortPro. Today I'm going to go over our operations module. So topics for today are going to be order entry, our dispatch board, dispatching, and our planner. Let's get started. First topic of today is going to be how to enter loads into PortPro. So to begin, I'm going to navigate over to the dispatcher page. And now that I'm here on the dispatcher page, I'm going to show you the three different areas here where we can enter a new load from. I'm going to start with this green plus sign up at the top. If we hover over, it says quick add. And if I select on that plus sign, I am going to get a menu that drops down. I'm going to select on the first option I have here that says add new load. So now that I've selected on add new load, this window does come up. I do get two options to enter a load manually or automatically. I'm going to go ahead and close for now, and I will circle back to this. Next section to add a new load is going to be right under your name. Up at the top right, you will have a add new load button. If you do select in there, you will get that same window that we saw under quick add. Third area to enter a new load from the dispatcher board is going to be on the left of the search bar that we have down in the center of the screen. If we select on that add quick load button, we are going to get a row that drops down where all we need to do is just fill out some basic information such as your load type, customer, pickup and delivery location, the branch, that's if that's applicable to your company, the route, and you will have a separate column to enter your container number. All you need to do is hit save and then your load will be created. All right, I'm going to go ahead and now head on back to my add new load button. So once again, we do have two different ways we can enter a new load here. We have the manual way and the automatic way. So I'm going to start with the manual way of entering a new load. First step is going to be to select the load type, whether this is going to be an import, export, road, and road can be used for trailers or for dry vans. And then we do have a bill only option, and the purpose for the bill only option is going to be just to generate an invoice that is not tied with the load. So I'm going to continue with import. Next, I'll be selecting my customer or the bill to, and then I will be selecting a pickup location. Right, next is the delivery location. And for each of these separate drop downs that we're looking at, if you cannot find the customer pickup or delivery location in this menu that comes down, you are able to start typing. And if for any reason, let's say that warehouse is not in your PortPro account yet, you will have the option to add a new profile. So if you do select on that, for this example, add new warehouse button, you will get a new window where you're able to just fill out some basic information about that warehouse. You can go ahead and then add that in, and then that will become an option to select. Alrighty, so after my delivery location has been entered, I am going to go ahead now and select the branch I'm entering this load for. And then the next step is to enter the container number. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my container number now. And I'm just going to add that in. Before we continue, we will be having enhanced container tracking for today's training. So you will be able to see PortPro's enhanced tracking pull in up to 13 data fields for you. I'm just going to go ahead and hover over this information icon. And enhanced container tracking can pull the vessel ETA, your last free day, outgate and ingate date, along with the container size, type, and steamship line. If the container has a custom freight or broker hold, master bill of lading, seal number, vessel name, and voyage. So the only thing that PortPro needs in order to pull that information is going to be the correct pickup location and the correct container number. Next step is to select the route for this load. So we do have a couple of routing options here. I'm just going to go ahead and expand this menu really quickly. The first two routing options we have are called pick and runs. So what a pick and run means in PortPro just means that you will send a driver to pick up at the pickup location and then run that container directly to the delivery location. So once that driver arrives to the delivery location, they will either drop and hook or live unload. Next, we do have our pre-pull options. So pre-pull, that just means your driver will pick up from the pickup location and then drop it at the yard. So they will not be delivering direct. and whenever they do deliver, it will be either a drop and hook or a live unload. Next, we do have one-way move. So one-way move is going to be used whenever you do get a delivery order from your customer and they ask you to pick up a container and then terminate that container. Many different examples where we can choose a one-way move. And then we also do have a shunt, which is also known as a shuttle move. And shunt can be used for whenever you need to just shuttle a container from one point to another. The last two options that we have on this list are going to be called our gray pools. So we do have the option for a pick and run gray pool or a pre-pull gray pool. So whenever this container does get delivered, it will always be a drop when we're using these gray pool options. And when the driver arrives to drop, they will be assigned an empty to take back with them. So the driver will not know what empty number it is or what chassis number. They will have to wait to get assigned. And what that gray pool option does is it's going to give your drivers an empty field to input that chassis number and the container number that they are picking up. For this example, I'm going to go ahead and select on pre-pull live, and I'm going to go ahead and now create load. All right, now that the load is created, we will go ahead and start to see our enhanced tracking pulling information from the terminal's website. So we're going to give it a couple of seconds and then we will have some information pulled. All right, now that that has finished loading, we will be able to see now in our load info tab some information that pulled from that terminal's website. Those fields are going to be highlighted in a blue color, such as vessel ETA. We also had our container size, type, and steamship line pull for this container, along with the master bill of lading, vessel name, and we also do have the ability to see if this container has freight or customs hold. So now I'm going to go over the load info page. So up at the top, we can see the customer and the branch that we've selected, and we can also see the pickup and delivery location as well. We also do have a return location section now. So this section is always going to come up blank. There is going to be no information input here just because we don't know when this container is going to be unloaded or when it will be empty. If we do ever need to make changes to any of these selections that we've already made, you are able to select on the drop-down and make any changes if necessary. Next to these three locations here, we do have what are called from and to boxes. In these from and to boxes, if you are, for example, booking a pickup or a return appointment on the terminal's website, you are able to select in the box, select the date you secured the appointment along with the time slot. So let's say I did secure an appointment for Monday, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. So I will select 7 a.m. and then I am going to select that 8 a.m. slot in here as well. So now anybody from the team or even drivers will be able to see that I do have a pickup appointment for the 11th at 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. If you are booking the appointments through PortPro's auto appointments feature, you will also be able to see your appointments populate in this section here, along with the status of the appointment. Scrolling down to the bottom, we are going to see under return location a recommended return location section. And in this section, PortPro is going to be providing you with the locations that are currently receiving this container's size, type, and steamship line. So these recommended return locations will be updating depending on terminal receiving. And if one of these terminals is no longer receiving, instead of this field being blue, it will be red. Next, we do have a section for chassis location. So whenever you create the load for the first time, if you do know where the driver will need to hook or terminate a chassis, you can go ahead and select from the drop-down those locations. If you don't, that's totally fine. We also can add the and terminate chassis locations within the routing page. Next section is called container visibility. So this is where PortPro will be telling you if there is a freight hold or a customs hold on this container. And we'll also get a container status drop down at the bottom. And this container status will tell you if this container is on vessel, if it's available, if it's outgated, terminated. You will have a not available status, and that not available status is going to be if the container is in a closed area or if it is unable to locate. And the first selection you have is not found. So container status will be not found if this container is not found on the terminal's website. Moving on down to freight description. This is where we are able to enter the commodity that the customer sends to us. So if we do have a commodity list already set up, you are able to select from the drop down and select the type of commodity you're moving. You do have a field for description, piece count, weight, and pallet count as well. So for the piece count, you can go ahead and input an amount. If your customer did not provide that to you, then that's totally okay as well. You can just skip over it. And you can enter the weight. So if your customer sends you your weight in kilos, you are able to go ahead and input that amount into that column, and you will be able to see that PortPro does convert that for you automatically. If you do get the weight in pounds, PortPro will also convert into kilograms for you. I'm going to go ahead and click out on the screen. We will be able to see that whole line will turn a green color. That just means it's saved. I'm going to scroll all the way to the top to dates. So in this date section, we will be able to see our enhanced tracking pulling in some important dates for us, once again, such as vessel ETA, last free day, discharge date, along with outgate and the in-gate date. Some of these dates in this section here are going to be populated based on a driver's routing as well. Moving down to equipment, so this is where we are going to be able to view our container number that we entered when we were creating this load, along with the container size, type, and steamship line that pulled with enhanced tracking. Next, we have chassis number. So in this chassis number field, this is where we will be able to see what chassis it is that our driver selected when hooking a chassis or when picking up a container on wheels. Drivers will have the option to select from a list of your company's chassis. And if you do not have any, or maybe if they picked up a container with the port chassis, they will be able to still manually type in that chassis number, and they will have the ability to add it into the load anyways for documentation. Right under chassis number, we do have fields to input a genset number, temperature, and we also do have the option to select what route your driver will be taking for this load, whether it's going to be a local route or a highway route. We also do have a field for SCAT codes. So if you do need to input the SCAT code for the driver when they're picking up from the terminal or returning to the terminal, you do have a field for that SCAT code as well. Next, under equipment, we do have our load identifier checkboxes. So these load identifier checkboxes will allow you to sort of just identify anything specific about this load. So if we are moving hazmat products, we can check off hazmat, or maybe if this is a super hot container that our customer needs as soon as possible, we can go ahead and mark that hot. We do have a couple of other options such as street turn, overweight, scale, out of gauge, many different options that you can use these for. And these are going to be visible from the dispatcher screen and also from the driver app for your driver. So it will provide visibility. Moving on down to reference numbers, we will be able to see any reference numbers that are enhanced tracking pulled in, such as master bill or the vessel name. We do have additional fields that can be filled out even though they're not required. So you do have fields, for example, seal number, reference number, PO number, and shipment number. And then down towards the bottom, we do have our most important reference numbers. So you have pickup number and return number. Whenever you are picking up or returning from a terminal that requires a appointment number or a gate code, you are able to go ahead and use these fields to input that information. If you are using PortPro's automatic appointment booking, you will be able to see those appointment numbers or gate code numbers pull into these fields here. For your delivery location, if the warehouse does require some sort of release number or appointment number, you do have the appointment number and reservation number field that you can use. In your settings, you will have the ability to add an additional delivery reference number field for every delivery location that you have. So if you do have a load that you've entered and it's going to require 3 stops, you are able to generate 3 different fields here for each different appointment number or release numbers. All right, I'm going to move back up to the top. So next, I'll be going over the load summary. So here on the left, we will be able to see all of the information that we just went over, such as our customer, pickup, delivery, and return location. We will be able to see our load summary here on this next section. And here you are able to assign customer reps to this load. So whoever will be handling this load here or managing it, you will be able to select on one or more reps. If I scroll down, we are going to see a preview on the map of where this container will be picking up and delivering to. And then down towards the bottom, we do have a tracking section. So this is going to show us the route that we selected whenever we created this load. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move on up now. The next tab I'm going to go over is going to be called Billing. So in this billing tab, this is where we're going to be able to see any automatic rates that we have set up in PortPro for the purpose of billing. In this section, we are also able to invoice customers and also add billing charges manually. The next tab we have is Documents. So in this Documents tab, we are able to store any important documents such as bill of ladings, delivery orders, hazmat paperwork, and we are also able to see our in-gate and out-gate tickets pull in from the system. Additional documents such as PODs, anything that a driver can pretty much upload from within the mobile app will also be found in this section. Once we've invoiced this load, we will be able to apply payments and credits or see a history of payments and credits from this next tab that we have here. And in the routing, this is where we're able to dispatch our drivers. We're able to change the routing template, add additional events if needed. Next, we have Payable and Expenses. So in this Payable and Expenses tab, we are able to see any driver pay that automatically generates in PortPro, and we are also able to approve, unapprove, and manually add driver pay. Next, we have the Tracking tab. So this Tracking tab is going to tell us where we're picking up the container, dropping, or delivering. We will also be able to see here the time the driver started this move, along with arrived, departed, and even how long he spent at that location. The Tracking tab will also give you guys the ability to share a public link. So I'm going to go ahead and select on that arrow, and you will get this window that comes up where you can copy and paste a link into an email, send it off to your customer, and you can provide them with ETA information, and then they will also be able to see on map where your driver currently is if he is on his way to deliver. You get to select how long you want this link to be active for, whether it's 24 hours, 1 week, or a custom range as well. The next tab we have is going to be called Communication. So once you do have embedded email connected into your PortPro account, you will be able to connect any email threads within the load. You'll also be able to open that thread, reply, forward, and you will still be within the load itself. So instead of scrolling through your emails looking for any important information regarding this container that we have here, you will have all of that stored within the load. The next tab we have is going to be called Audit. So Audit is going to tell us who's made changes within this load, the name of the user, the type of change that was made, the date and time for when it occurred, and then exactly the data that was changed. Next, we have our Notes section. So this section will allow you to add notes for your driver to view on the app, any billing notes that you can keep internal or external. You also do have fields to enter yard notes and load notes as well. I'm going to go back into our load info page, and before I do close this load here, I do want to point out that you do have the ability to print any PortPro generated documents. So we do have this print button up at the top. Next to that print button, you do have a duplicate load button. So if you do need to create another load based on this one that we were looking at, you can select or enter the amount of how many new loads you want to create using this specific load here. Next, we have the remove load. So you do have the ability to delete loads in PortPro. They are going to be saved under a separate tab called deleted loads that you'll find in customer service, and you can always go back in there and re-enable if needed. And then last but not least, we do have our previous load and next load button. So if you do want to go back and view the previous load you had entered, you can use these arrows up at the top. Now that we are back here on the dispatcher load page, we are able to see for that load we just entered our load identifier. So I did check off the load as being overweight and as hot. We can see those icons have shown up here at the bottom. Next, I'll be going over how to enter a load automatically. So I'm going to go ahead and use add new load once again. This time I'm going to select on that automatically tab. First step will be to select the branch we are entering this load for. And then we can either drag and drop or upload our PDF that our customer sent us from our computer. I'm going to go ahead and upload that, and we will see this status bar change. And then the last step will be to select the route for this load that we want to take. So I will select a pre-pull drop-in hook. I'm going to go ahead and now hit create load, and then we will get this pop-up that comes up letting us know that our documents are currently processing. So if we want to go back to our document at a later time, we can go ahead and select on close, but we do have that take me to my document button as an option as well. So once we select on that take me to my document button, we will be brought to this tendered loads tab. And once we're here, we do need to go into the tab that says PortPro. So now that we are here in PortPro, we will be able to see all the documents that have been uploaded that have not yet been processed. So we will be able to see that the one that we just entered is still processing. The document upload usually takes around from 30 seconds to 1 minute, just depending on how large the file is. So we can always just go back into our dispatcher page if needed. But if we do need to once again access that tendered loads page once again, we can go ahead into customer service, tendered loads, and PortPro. Alrighty, now we can see our document has processed. So to open it, I'm going to go ahead and select on this notebook icon that we have here. And once we select on that notebook icon, we will be able to see our delivery order here on the right hand side. And on the left, that's going to be where we'll be able to see any information that PortPro extracted from that delivery order for us. So the idea of the automatic way of entering a new load is going to be that you upload your delivery order, and what PortPro tries to do is to extract any information that it can and to autofill into these fields here on the left for you. Of course, before we actually create the load, we do need to review that that information is 100% accurate. Once we do that, we can go ahead and create this load. I will just say that PortPro will take a couple of tries before it fully can extract all information from this delivery order. So first, it does need to learn the terminology, the formatting of the delivery order as well. So we can see our pickup location did pull. It pulled based off of APM terminals, and it made that connection for me. Same with the delivery location. And then we do have additional fields that we can input information for as well. So in this example, my master bill of lading did pull under the house bill of lading field. I'm going to go ahead and just make the change, go ahead and correct that. That way, the next time that I enter a delivery order this way, it will pull that bill of lading into this master bill of lading field. We can see our vessel name and voyage pulled in as well. And then if we continue scrolling down, we will be able to see all containers on this delivery order. So you will be able to see that information up at the top with this drop down. If you select that drop down, you will be able to see all of the containers included on this delivery order. And then you are also able to see that preview down at the bottom here where you can make changes instead of having to scroll all the way down and find each one by one. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a couple of changes. Once all changes have been made, you can go ahead and now select on create load. You will get this window that comes up just asking if you're done reviewing that your loads will be created. So if you are 100% sure with all of the information you reviewed, you can go ahead and select on create load. For some of the information that is pulled with enhanced tracking, you can leave empty on these review fields, and whenever you do create the load, PortPro will still continue to track for you. So now that I've created my loads, we will be able to see our load numbers come up at the top right as a notification. If I go into the dispatcher page, we will be able to now see these first 3 loads that I have created here are the ones that we just went through. If I do open one of these loads and go into this documents tab that we have here, we will be able to see the delivery order in there as well. And that will be documented every time you do use the automatic way of entering a new load. The next way to enter a new delivery order within PortPro is going to be with our bulk upload. So to find the bulk upload, you will be able to go to the menu here on the left. You can find customer service and bulk uploads. Once I've selected bulk uploads, we will have this menu here on this page where we're going to start filling out some information that was provided to us on our delivery order. For this bulk upload example, I am going to use a scenario where a customer sent me a delivery order with about 5 or 6 containers on it. And instead of entering each delivery order one by one into PortPro, I'm going to be using this bulk uploads feature that we have. So first step is to select the load type, and I'm only going to start with one row. I'm going to select the customer name of who sent me this delivery order. Next, I'll select the pickup location, and you do have the ability to type in this section as well. Once I do have these columns filled out, I am going to now go ahead and paste in the container numbers that the customer sent me on that delivery order. So I'm going to go ahead and just select in this cell, hit Control V on my keyboard, and we will see those pasted over. So I do have additional rows down at the bottom I do not need. In order to remove them, I'm just going to highlight these 4 cells, right click on the screen, and then select on Remove Rows. So next I'm going to go ahead and fill out this information for the rest of the rows down below. Instead of going cell by cell to fill it out, I can either go ahead and select the cells that I would like to paste on down. And then we do have a blue square at the bottom right. If I hover over that blue square, we will see these crosshairs here that we can go ahead and select and then just drag down to the last row. So that information will be filled in for you. Another method is highlighting those cells, copying with your keyboard, highlighting where you want them to paste over into, and then select paste. So we do have many different columns here in this bulk upload section. We even have the ability to add the file of the delivery order that your customer sent. And you can also drag and then drop it all the way down, and it will be applied for every load that you enter in bulk upload. So once again, many columns that you can use. Once you enter loads with this bulk upload feature that we have, enhanced tracking is still going to begin once you create the load. Once all that information has been input, you can now go ahead and select on this upload data button. And once you do select on it, you will be seeing each row disappear one by one. That's just going to be PortPro creating those new loads for you. You will get a notification up at the top letting you know that the loads have been uploaded. And now if we go into our dispatcher page, we will be able to see those loads that we just created are already tracking and have been created. Back into our bulk uploads section here. If you do ever receive delivery orders from a customer in a CSV format, you are able to go ahead and select on Choose File, upload that CSV into PortPro. And once you upload that CSV, you will be asked to match some fields. So we do ask for you to match these fields just because sometimes the customers name some of these columns differently as to how we have it in PortPro. For example, in PortPro, we have pickup location. The customer might call that terminal. So once you have all of these fields matched, you do only have to match the required fields, and you will know which ones those are with this asterisk here. So once those are all matched, you can select on next. And then once you select next, all that information is going to copy into each cell that you have, just depending on how much information is included in that CSV. Once you have reviewed all of the information that has pasted over, you can now go ahead and select on this upload data button. And we will see that our loads have once again uploaded. So back into the dispatcher page, we will see that load has been created. Next, I'll be going over the dispatcher board. So to get to the dispatcher board, I am going to go to the menu on the left-hand side into dispatcher, and we'll be looking at our dispatcher board here. So I'm going to start up at the top where we see select the day you want to work on. It's always going to be default to all days, and all days is going to show you every load that you have input in the system no matter what status it is currently in. If you do prefer to see, for example, what you have scheduled for today, you can go ahead and select in the drop-down and then go down to today. You'll be able to see that all of these status cards up at the top do change depending on the day that you select on. We also do have in this drop-down two statuses, one called past due and the other one called today plus past due. Past due means in PortPro, it could be a past last free day, a past appointment, past per diem last free day, or past cutoff. So if you do select on past due, you can just focus on that status. But if you do select on today plus past due, you can see anything that you have scheduled today along with anything that you might need to reschedule. I'm going to switch back to all days. And then next to select a day you want to work on, you also do have a calendar. So if you do need to jump ahead past the days that are shown on the drop-down as an option, you are able to select on that calendar and then jump ahead if needed. Next, I'm going to go over the status cards that we have up at the top. So up at the top, we do have the first one, reading containers arriving on vessel or rail. So by selecting on containers arriving on vessel or rail, PortPro is going to go ahead and just filter out those loads in that status for me. If I do want to further filter out these loads, for example, if I only need to see the ones that are on hold, I can go ahead and select in that subcard, and then I will be able to see those that are only on hold. I also do have an option for released. The next status card we have is containers that need to be picked up. So for some of these status cards that we have up at the top, you will get additional filters that we see down here in gray. And for example, if you only need to see containers that are outgating from a specific terminal, you can select on that terminal name and those loads will populate for you. I'm going to select the X just to sort of reset it back. You also do get additional filters down at the bottom, which are these checkboxes. So if you only want to focus on any loads that are pending but need to be picked up, you can go ahead and select in here. Same thing if maybe you want to see which loads are going to be pre-pulled or which loads are actually going to go direct to the warehouse after outgating. So in this containers that need to be picked up section, you do have a status card for last free day, and then the ones that do have a pickup appointment. Next status card is containers that need to be delivered or loaded. So in the status card here, we are able to see all containers that need to be delivered or loaded, whether they're at the terminal or in the yard. But if you do need to narrow it down, once again, you could just select in any of these subcards. Loads will populate in this containers that need to be delivered or loaded section because they already have a delivery appointment set within the load. Next, we have containers that need to be returned. So we can see which are currently in a ready status and which are in a not ready status. So when it is ready to be returned, it will depend on the type of load that it is. So for example, for our imports, our container is going to be ready for return when the container is actually empty. However, for export loads, the container does have to be in a loaded status in order to be ready for return. Next, we'll be able to see containers that are dropped. So in this status card, we can see the ones that are only in our yard or the ones that are in a customer's yard. And once again, we do see those location filters down at the bottom. So if you do need to filter out by a specific location, you can as well. Next to containers dropped, we do have dispatch loads. So here we will be able to see which drivers are currently working on a load or are currently assigned to a load. And then right under that, we have finish today. So in finish today, this is where we will be able to see any loads that have been completed for today. This could be anything from a empty has gated to a container being pre-pulled, but we will be able to see that that move was completed today. Right under finish today, we do have a filter button. In this filter button, we are able to apply one or more filters within the dispatcher board. So These filters can be any load identifiers that we set up within the load. It could be appointment statuses, appointments based on date or time, last 3 days. We even have filters for customers and pickup, delivery, or return location. So there are many different filters that one can use in PortPro. I am going to go ahead and just set up a filter example. I'm going to select a customer filter along with a specific delivery location filter and then select apply down at the bottom. So we can see my filters have been applied. We can see these two being applied here. And then next, what I'm going to show you is going to be what we call views. So in PortPro, once you do set up your filters, you are able to save those filters by creating a view, which is going to be this gray plus sign up at the top. When we select on add new view or on create view, we will be able to name the view, and I usually just name it based on the filters I selected. And then you do have the option to set this as a default. So what setting as a default does is that whenever you do log into PortPro and you want to head over into your dispatcher page, these filters will automatically be applied for you right away. So you do have that as an option if you do want to set as default. I'm going to create view for now. And now that I've created my view, we can see that that view is right up at the top. We can select on that view name and our filters are applied. If we want to go back to the dispatcher page, we can go ahead and select on that X. We will see our filters have gone away. If I do need to use those filters again, and instead of going back into that filter button and setting them all over again, I can just go ahead and select on that view name that we can see up here at the top, and those filters will automatically be applied for me. If I do decide to, for example, set this view as a default every time I log into PortPro, I will be able to go into my dispatcher page and that view will automatically be selected for me. So you do have that as an option as well. Next to that filter button, we do have a edit board columns button. And this edit board columns will allow any user to enable or to disable any columns in this dispatcher page. So whenever user first signs into PortPro, they will have many different columns to scroll through on their dispatcher page. And each user can customize their own dispatch board as to include whichever columns they need. So if one user disables the CSR column, the other user won't be affected. And it's very easy to do. All you need to do is select on this toggle here and that column will be disabled. Another way to edit your board columns is going to be hover over the column name itself and select on the three dots that we see here, and you will see the option to remove the column. You will also see a pin column option, and what the pin column option does is that it's going to go ahead and freeze that column here on the left hand side. So if you do scroll to the right, those columns will stay put and they're not going to move. So if you do need to view additional information and you're worried about losing sight of what container it was you were looking at, you can always just pin multiple columns. Another thing you're able to do within PortPro is you are able to move columns around. So for example, if you would rather see the last free day before the ETA, you can always just drag and drop the column name over the one you want it in front of. You are also able to make edits from within the dispatch page. So if you do select into some of these fields here, you will be able to either select or input a date, an appointment, date and time, and you can also change, for example, the size of the container if needed. Other ways to make updates in the dispatch board is going to be by selecting on this checkbox that we see on the far left. When we do select on one or more of these checkboxes, we are going to see some options that do come down on the bottom. First, we have ready for return. So if a container is dropped loaded at a customer's warehouse, you are able to mark as empty or ready for return from the dispatcher board. Next, you do have the edit load info page. So you are able to make changes to the terminal, warehouse, the return location, and you can add load notes, driver notes as well. You're also able to edit dates, edit the pickup, delivery, or return appointment. You can add reference numbers in. If you need to, you can edit equipment info. You can also upload documents from the dispatcher page, along with adding charges. So if your dispatcher needs to add in a dry run charge for the customer, they are able to do so from here. We do have an option to add to an order. So if you do have a free flow order already created, you are able to add that container to an existing order, or you are also able to create a new order from that load. We also do have our live share button, which is going to generate this link for you to share with customers or with others to view ETA and live location of your drivers. We have copy container, which will copy container to your clipboard. And you do have print, which will allow you to download your delivery order, displaying all delivery locations or just the next delivery location. And this bulk update feature is available for more than one container. So if you do need to update multiple containers at a time, you can select on more than one, and you will still see that menu down at the bottom. The only option unavailable will be live share. That will need to be done individually and will be a unique link that you get for every load. So next I'll be going over the dispatching portion of today's training, and there are 4 different areas in PortPro where you can dispatch a driver from. First one being the dispatcher page that we're currently on. So you guys will have a column that is called driver. And if you do select in this little icon that we have here, you are going to be able to see a list of your drivers populate. So in this first view that we have here, we will be able to see your drivers that are available, or if some are currently working on a move already. You will also see some within on hold status. If a driver is on hold, it may be because something expired in their driver profile, such as their driver's license, or even their medical. If you do have the driver grayed out, it's possible that this driver does not meet the requirements in order to be dispatched to this type of move, such as endorsements. If we do select on our second view that we have here, you will be able to see the truck number that this driver is currently assigned to, along with their status. And if they do have endorsements, you will be able to see those there as well. So in order to dispatch, all you need to do is select on the driver name. Every time you select on the driver's name, the routing page is going to come up. And the reason why it comes up every time you assign a driver is going to be because PortPro wants you to double check that the routing you are about to send out to your driver is accurate and correct. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll down to where my driver is assigned. We can see I have not sent this load out to them. I am going to review that I want them to hook the container at the yard, deliver to the warehouse, and then return right after. What this routing page also allows you to do is add additional events if needed. So for example, after my driver live unloads, if I know there's going to be no return appointments, I can go ahead and add an extra move for him to drop at the yard instead of returning direct. What that does is that it is going to update the driver's routing here. And now we can see it did create an additional move for another driver to hook at the yard and return either on the same day, different time, or just on a different day. So we are able to use these drag and drop events that we see here on the left to configure our driver's routing. Once we're okay with this routing and we're ready to send this off to the driver, it's super important that we do select on this green check mark that we see here. If we do not select on that green check mark, the driver will not be able to see any of his routing on his mobile app. So if we just hit close, this does not mean that the driver is dispatched to this. So once again, once we're ready to send this off to our driver, we're going to select on that green check mark. That driver will receive a notification on their mobile app letting them know they've been assigned to a new load, and then they'll begin working on this load. If we ever do need to unassign a driver, we do have this red X here, and we can go ahead and remove. We're going to select yes, we want to remove. And then it will be available for dispatch once again. If you do unassign a driver from a load, or if you do make any updates to their routing or within the load as well, the driver will receive a notification to review changes made within their mobile app. The next way of dispatching is going to be through our driver list that we have on the left of add new load. And whenever we select on this list, we will be able to see a list of our drivers and they are currently working on anything or assigned to additional loads. So once we see which driver we need to dispatch, we're going to go ahead and drag and drop their name into the icon of what load we want to dispatch them to. So once again, just by dragging and dropping, we will be able to see the routing page come up once again. We still have the option to use drag and drop events to change the routing up a bit. And we also do have this routing template drop down. So if for any reason we need driver to pre-pull this load instead of delivering it direct, maybe because the warehouse is closing very soon, we can change the routing template to a pre-pull live. And now we can see the routing has changed for the driver. If we do need to, once again, add additional moves or events, we can use these drag and drop events that we have. I am going to add this driver to hook onto a chassis before heading to the terminal, and I am going to change the location of where he's hooking the chassis to the yard. Now, if I do send this out to my driver, they will have the instruction to first hook onto a chassis at the yard and then head over to the terminal to pick up this container. I'm going to go ahead and select on that green check mark to send out this load to the driver on their mobile app, and then they will receive it and start working on it. The third way of dispatching a driver is going to be from within the load itself. So I'm going to go ahead and open up one of these loads here, and I'm going to head into the routing tab. And from here, we're going to see a drop down to select on our driver. So once again, I'm going to select on that drop down. I'll be able to see the same thing I saw on the dispatcher page along with the different views. And I'm going to select on this driver here. So once again, since we are within the load already on the routing page, no new window is going to come up, but you are still able to change the routing template and you can add additional drag and drop events if needed. So I'm going to add that hook chassis once again. Once you're okay with the routing that you've selected, you can go ahead and send this off to the driver now, and they're going to, once again, start to work on this load. I'm going to go ahead and close this routing page. Next, I'm going to show you the planner, which is actually going to be the fourth way of dispatching a driver. So to access the planner, I'm going to go to this menu up at the top. And then we will see our planner open up here. So within the planner, you are able to use this for pre-planning for the next shift, for the next day, for the week, just depending on how you want to start pre-dispatching your drivers. You will see up at the top, select the day you want to work on, and this is going to be selecting the day you want to work on pre-planning for your driver. So the first option that you have on this dropdown is going to be as of today, and as of today is going to show you what your drivers have left to complete for today. Past due is going to show you any loads that your driver has been assigned to in the past and that they have not completed within their mobile app. Today is going to show you anything that the driver has already completed today and what is left to complete today. And then you also do have tomorrow and the rest of the days of the week. You also do have a weekly view. So if you do want to see how many loads your drivers are assigned to, for example, today, Monday, you will be able to see that here in a weekly view. You can also see the driver app view. So the driver app view is going to show you exactly what the driver is seeing on their app. Active is going to be what they are currently working on, and upcoming is going to be anything that they have left to work on after this active move. Next, you do have assigned. So if you only do want to see the work that they've been assigned, you will be able to use that view there as well. So in the planner, let's say I want to start pre-dispatching for tomorrow's date. I'm going to go ahead and select on the drop-down and select on tomorrow. So on the left, we can see our driver name. We will be able to see their truck number. And then you do have additional fields here that might be filled in just depending on what day you're looking at. So if you're looking at today's date and you're seeing that the driver is currently working on a move, you will be able to see the ETA until their next location, and you will also be able to see what chassis they are using. If they're pulling a container or a trailer, you will be able to see also the size of that container or trailer. Now at the bottom, you do have these separate sections called cycle, shift, drive, and brake. These are going to be where you can see different hours whenever your driver's connected to an ELD. So if you do need to dispatch by driver, you do have this driver view. If you would rather dispatch by truck, you also do have a truck view, but it will also tell you what driver is assigned to that truck. Right under select the day you want to work on, you do have what are called driver tags. You are able to set up driver tags within each driver profile to sort of identify and use within the planner. So for example, if I do have drivers in my company that like to do only port work, I can go ahead and use that driver tag I created for my port only drivers, and I will see that they will filter out. Same if I use the hazmat tag, I will be able to see which of my drivers have hazmat endorsements. Next, we do have branch. So if you guys are pre-dispatching based on branch, you are able to select the branch that you want to work on. You can also filter out by those drivers that have already been assigned work and those that have not been assigned work. On the right, we do have different views. So we have our detailed view, compact view, and our list view. Each view is going to pretty much give you a smaller breakdown of what it is your driver is assigned to, but you will always be able to hover over and see the detailed view. On the right of that, we do have filters. So once your drivers are assigned to work, you will be able to filter out by the work they have already been assigned. So on the far right, we have select the day you want to work on, and it's going to be default to all days. So all days is going to show you all the loads that are currently scheduled in PortPro no matter what date or time. If you do select on that drop down, you will be able to see past due, today plus past due, today, tomorrow, and the rest of the days of the week. So this portion is going to mirror exactly what we saw earlier on our dispatch page. I'm going to go ahead and select on tomorrow, and once you do select on a day, you will be able to get a breakdown down at the bottom as to how many containers you have scheduled at the port, how many deliveries are scheduled, or how many containers are scheduled to return. If you do select in any of these bubbles, those containers at the port are going to filter out for you, so you'll only be able to see those that are scheduled to outgate from the port. In every one of these boxes that we have here, you will be able to see the load number along with the container number, size, and type. You will also be able to see the routing along with a last free day or a pickup appointment. If you are looking at deliveries or containers to return, you will be able to see the delivery appointment it has scheduled along with the return appointment it has scheduled. To begin dispatching, it's very simple to use. All you need to do is drag and drop this box into the move that you want to assign it to for your driver. So if I'm going to begin dispatching my drivers for the day, I'm going to start with the earliest appointment I have. So I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop this appointment to this driver here. And once again, the routing page is always going to come up. So if we know our driver is going to need a chassis first thing in the morning, I'm just going to go ahead and start by adding the hook chassis. And I'm going to go ahead and close it. So now that we have that added, we can continue adding on to the additional moves that they're going to be doing after this first one that we have added. So now that that move has been added into the planner, we can continue adding on more moves for that driver. If we do scroll to the right on the left side of the page, we are going to see that we currently are going to have up to 7 moves to dispatch a driver. Of course, you guys are not limited to only dispatching up to 7 at a time for pre-planning. The more you add, the more columns are going to be added onto the screen. So I'm going to go ahead and assign my driver additional moves. I'm going to just review the routing, close the page, and then continue adding them on here. If for any reason, let's say for example, I don't think my driver is going to make this move that I assigned them here, what you're able to do is also reassign. So instead of selecting this red X here to remove the load, you are able to drag and drop this and assign it to a different driver. And once we do so, we will be able to see at the top, load reassigned successfully and the driver name change. So I'm going to go ahead and hit close, and we will be able to see that that driver got assigned the load that was originally assigned to this first driver here. Same thing goes for if you need to change the order. So for example, if this move is going to be assigned to this driver to work on first, but you actually need this one to be worked on first, you can go ahead and just swap these, and it's going to update the order as to how the driver will start the moves. Once you've reviewed everything you've pre-dispatched to your drivers, you are able to now select on the check mark so the drivers will know that they are going to be assigned to these moves for the day of tomorrow. And before ending today's training, I do want to let you guys know also that instead of using this panel here on the left, you are able to hide it. And if you guys do have more than one monitor in the office, you are able to have the planner open on one screen and PortPro's dispatcher page open in another window on a different monitor. And you are able to use your own filters, your own views to use this planner. You can drag from one screen into the planner and you will see the same process happen. The routing page will come up, you do get to double check the routing, and then you can send it off to your driver. Thanks for joining me today, guys.